Just 86 days away from the election, and states are right now scrambling to prepare for a surge in voting by mail as the pandemic shows no signs of slowing down. But for some, mail-in voting doesn't come without risk.
Yeah, there's a new report out today that sheds light on how vote by mail threatens to disenfranchise the very people suffering the most in the pandemic, voters of color. Joining us now to talk about it, the reporter who wrote that article, NBC's Jane Tim. Jane, it is really a fascinating article. And can you tell us kind of about your process about what you learned and the factors at play here that actually disenfranchise Black and Latino voters?
So when we started pushing towards vote by mail, it's sort of an obvious choice in a pandemic, the ability to vote outside a crowd, outside waiting hours in line, which many of us do on election day. And I started looking at the rejection rates. And if you look at rejection rates on paper, they seem kind of low, maybe 1 or 2% in a county. New York is particularly bad. Our 2018 vote by mail rate was 14% rejection. But I went into those numbers, and what you find when you know the race of voters and you look at that data is that voters of color get rejected at twice the rate, typically, of white voters. And that's huge. It's an enormous amount of ballots, an enormous disproportionate rate, particularly when you know that voters of color often choose to vote by mail less than white voters. The people who vote absentee tend to be older, whiter voters, and they're the ones who are getting their ballots cast. And when you expand vote by mail with the same systems that have been used by absentee mail, which is happening in most states, these numbers can actually kind of blow up. So I want to take you through one county and then take it bigger. So if you look at Jefferson County in Kentucky, this is a diverse county, Louisville's there. 2018, they had an 8% absentee ballot rejection rate, but almost no one voted by mail there. So you had 294 ballots rejected, which, okay, it's a smaller number. And this is why advocates haven't really gone hard on these laws and gone to court over them, because it was 300 votes. And typically you could still go to the polls and vote if you were really worried. But this year, 2020, you had a 4.4% rejection rate in that county. That's 8,000 ballots. Now, take that, if 100 million people in America vote, we're looking at millions of rejected ballots, disproportionately those of minorities. And there's no one cause for this, but there's systemic inequalities at every step of the way. So if you live in a lower income neighborhood, your mail service is going to be poorer. If you live in a lower income county, your postage might not be paid for. Only 17 states pay for your postage by law. So otherwise, it's up to your county if they're going to put a stamp on your postage, which just is another barrier to getting it out of the mail. I never have stamps. And I have, I work for NBC. So you'd think it's a harder barrier when you have less resources.
Yeah, indeed. And especially as you point out, Jefferson County, because that is a really tough county. In the primaries, they had one polling station for the hundreds of thousands of people who live in that area. It forced them to keep the polling places open for several hours. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it.
And you can read Jane's article on NBCnews.com. Give it a read. It's really fascinating.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.